Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you're doing well. My name is Tandi Effect. In today's video, I am going to be talking to you about my experiences applying into graduate school here in the United States. Now, as an international student, you're required to do completely different things than someone who is American. The ball game is completely different and it's actually very competitive for us. So you need to make sure that your application is immaculate. You need to stand out, so that can look like your personal statement, your resume, your transcripts. All of this needs to be immaculate. I'm going to take you on a step-by-step of everything that you need to know. Before we go deeper into this video, I'd like to ask you to give this video a huge thumbs up, share it to someone who you think can find this information useful. It may be someone who works with international students who want to apply into grad school, or someone who wants to apply on their own. Whatever the case may be, make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a notepad, most definitely, because this information is a lot. And also, don't be afraid to revert back to this video, because baby, this information is very useful. Okay, so I'm currently a graduate student in the master's program of educational administration, focusing on student affairs at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Application process was very time consuming, and I say this because from the time I started applying till the time I came to the United States, I want to say this was a year plus. This is definitely not gonna be a walk in the park. I like to think of this application process as, you know, the college that you're going into, preparing you for what to expect in grad school, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of reflecting on who you are. You're going to question if you really want to do this, because child, it's going to be hectic at one point, but you know what? You're gonna do this. You can do this. Think perp. So in that 1 year leading up to you coming to the United States, you are going to compile a lot of information, recommendations, essays that you're gonna be writing, because your essays, baby, if they're not good, this is your selling point, okay? This is very competitive. Graduate school is very competitive, so you need to actually sit down and compile all this information and make sure that you have everything down on lock. You also need to look at your schools, the different schools that you want to apply to. I would recommend that you apply to at least 4. If you can, apply to more than 4, but 4 just so you can have many options, because again, it's very competitive, and yeah, you just don't want to feel the pressure that, oh, I applied to just one. Just apply to as many schools as you can. Also look up the application fees, because some programs have got running programs and they remove the application fees, but that's not the case for every single college. So make sure that you know the application fees, what's expected of you when you are submitting your application. I really would urge people to research the program that you want to go to. This is the best advice that I ever heard. It's never the right time or the wrong time to just start doing something completely different. I know in your undergrad you were like, I want to go into law, I want to make a difference to the world. Don't be afraid to expand your portfolio. Don't be afraid to expand on your career and your skills, because most of the things that you're learning throughout the way, they can be transferable. Okay, so you can do law in your undergrad, in your master's you can do, I don't know, something completely different. Don't put yourself in a box. So that being said, that's why we need that whole year or more to think about, okay, what's the program that I want to go into, and does it align with my future goals, and what do I hope to achieve after when I have this master's program? What's the goal? What's the plan? When you've researched your program, there are different things that they require for each program. For example, even if I am going to apply for higher education, but these are 4 different schools, they might require different documentation from you. One program can say, we actually want you to do like accreditation tests before you come. Or another program can say, no, there's no need for that. We just need your essays, your CV, recommendations. So make sure that you go through your websites and make sure that you have all this different documentation that you might need. Also, writing essays, personal statements, and all of that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of self-reflection, takes a lot of energy, because you're basically selling your story, right? This is a completely different stranger, like the admissions office, they don't know you, they don't know nothing about you. And also, this is something that I need to really point out. If the essay says your essay must be 500 words, if you write 501 words, even if your essay is amazing, is immaculate, you're already automatically disqualified, because in grad school you need to be able to follow instructions. Okay, if it says 500 words, 499 and below is good. 500 on the dot is good. Risky, but good. Okay, so make sure that you follow instructions as is. Now, something that you also need to think about, do you want to go into a community college? Do you want to go into a 2-year program? Do you want to go into a 4-year college? So that's also some other things that you need to consider. This, of course, can affect how much the program costs. This is a very big thing that I need to touch on in a different video, because this admissions video on its own is a lot, and I want to make sure that I put this information in 30 minutes or less. So we're gonna get into it. Don't worry, stick around, subscribe, okay, because there's gonna be lots of good content regarding all of this. Think about all of that, the cost, the type of college institution that it is. Do you want to go to a small school? Do you want to go to a medium to large? Or do you want to go to a large institution? Make sure that you're being honest with yourself, because it can be a lot. It can be a lot. But you know what? All these resources are out there for you. All you have to do is just sit down and research what sort of college that you're looking to go into. Cost of things. Do they offer financial aid to international students? That's a big thing. And if they don't, what can we do? What's the next step forward? Because in as much as we want to go into grad school, we are very qualified and we're intelligent, we are confident that we can excel in this program. But what's the affordability? Even if I can afford a tuition, what's the cost of living in that city that I want to go to? These are all things that you need to sit down and consider and to reflect on. So the program that I'm doing, like I mentioned, it's focusing on student affairs, and in student affairs there's 50 different offices in that. So for my program, they require of us that, well, it's not required, but it's always very useful, right? Whether you're an international student or you are a local student, they require us to have an assistantship so that we can, you know, put whatever we're learning in class into practice. So I am a graduate assistant at the Gender and Sexuality Center, and I primarily work with the student parents at UNL, and incidentally most of them are actually international students. And I also work with volunteers, but that's a story for another day. What I wanted to touch on is the aspect of working with international student parents, which I'm going to do another video on that, because that's a whole different ball game that I need to touch on and to spread more awareness on. So these are all different aspects that you need to think about. Does the program offer me scholarships? If it does not, can I get an on-campus job that, you know, I can take on and be able to cover my tuition and my living expenses? If that is not up for option, can I apply for loans for my grad school? And also, how long does it take for me to apply for a loan and to be approved and to be able to, you know, have the funds ready for the upcoming semester? Another huge thing that you need to, even immigration, before you've flown from your country or wherever you're flying from to come to the US, immigration will actually check for that, like the bank statement. How are you going to fare for your needs? How are you going to pay for this school, right? Once you're here, bank statement, that's at least 3 months old. Like 3 months, they say right now we're in July. Okay, so this bank statement needs to be for July, June, and May. Right? So this doesn't have to be your personal one. It can be someone who's willing to write a note and vouch for you, essentially, and say, hey, I'm willing to fit the bill for whatever Tandy may need for the time that they are in grad school. This bank statement is very important. Make sure that you find somebody, if you don't personally have one, that's willing to do that, to, you know, write this down for you. Even if you're going to make a plan later on, like finding a loan or having an assistantship and you'll be able to take care of yourself, that bank statement is very pivotal. For my program, I got accepted into the program, right? I didn't have to do an interviews for that, but I had to write statement of purpose. I had to write different essays regarding student affairs and what that means to me and why I wanted to go into this program, right? And I also had recommendations who also wrote on my behalf to attest to my character and all these different things, and if I'm actually capable to take on the program. And so now for the assistantship, that's when you have to sit down and actually talk to someone who's working in that office to be like, hey, so why should we offer you this job? Does this align with your goals? Do you have experiences working with this? So for example, fraternity and sororities. Even though in my previous job, I worked at the hospitality training center in Harare, I didn't have to do housing and sorority. So then that's already out. Even if I want to apply, I mean, you could try, but because you don't have experience in that, maybe that's something that you'd want to, you know, go down. But then if you know that, okay, I'm good on student advocacy, I am good on students with disability, I'm good with international students, you know, these are offices that you should perhaps look into. Again, it's a lot of reflecting. Transcripts, my goodness, these are very big because they need to know that, okay, you are applying into grad school, but what were you doing before, you know, you decided to come here? Transcripts can look like your O-level results, A-level results, or even your undergrad degree or certification, any kind of certification that you have, make sure that you compile that, make sure it's notarized, and that it's the original copies. If you're going to make copies, make sure you notarize them so that they know that this is legit. You look at your GPA. So please, if you're watching this and you're still doing your undergrad and you're working on, going into grad school, make sure that your grades are top tier. Again, grad school is very competitive. So your selling point is literally what you've been doing so far. Another thing that most people actually don't know, volunteer. Your extracurricular activities. They want to know that you're able to juggle being in grad school and all other aspects of your life. What else do you have going on? Before you were a grad student, did you volunteer with any organizations? Did you give back in your community? For example, there's Rotary or Rotaract. There's Leo Club. Do you volunteer at homeless shelters? Do you volunteer in any other NGOs? Things like that. Have you done unpaid internships? They want to see that, you're able to tackle a lot while also being able to carry out, your schooling and also taking care of yourself. You need to have that balance. You need to show that on your CV or your resume. You've decided that you want to go into grad school, right? You need to tailor your resume according to your program. Let me say I want to do my doctorate in education, right? So that means I want to work with kindergarten to 12th grade, or not just graduate school or colleges, right? So I need to tailor my CV according to just that. What is it in education that I have? I've got my master's in higher education right now, and I focused on student affairs. You're gonna be dealing with a lot of students even if you're working with K through 12 kids. At my graduate assistantship, I worked with students with children. And in my internship, I compiled a family resource guide with all this information for international student parents. Actually, even local students who are parents can utilize this information. But for the purpose of this video, international students are coming in with a fresh set of eyes. They don't know what the system is like here in America. So I then put information together that will help them to assimilate into the system. These are all things that I can talk about, like, hey, I put together a list of childcare options, K through 12 schools, and things that you can do even for fun with your kids here in Lincoln. So you need to show that, okay, you want to go into this doctorate. What are you going to do? What have you done to lead up to this? What makes you a better candidate than the next person who's applying as well? I'm going to touch on this again because I feel like when I said it just like haphazardly and I didn't go into it. Your essays need to be tip-top. One thing that I've realized about America, you need to be able to sell your story, okay? You need to pick one aspect of your life and tailor it according to the question that's being asked. So, for example, why do you want to go into student affairs, right? I can talk about, I just found myself, straight out of college. I wanted to work with women and children. That was my aim. That was my goal. And the way I was going to do that, I wanted to work with NGOs. But unfortunately, life did not go that way, and I ended up going into hospitality because I love working with people. And then in the middle of all of that, in between jobs, I'd go back and work with the Southern African Hospitality Training Center in Harare, Zimbabwe, and I was working with students. And that's how my love for student affairs grew. Shout out to Mr. Farrell. Having said all of that, why? Why are you going into student affairs? What do you hope to achieve? I want to go back home. I want to go back home and use all the skills that I've acquired here in this program to go back and implement it. I hopefully want to start my own coaching where I can help, students who want to apply to come to America for school. I want to help them throughout the process of them, assimilating into the United States education system. Your story needs to make sense, okay? You tell us your experiences, and then at the end, your conclusion, it needs to be, okay, so now that we've accepted you, what do you hope to achieve? What do you hope to achieve even after you've graduated from this program? Your essays, this is your selling point. You need to be vulnerable, you need to be honest with yourself, and this is why I say no one else can write your story but yourself. Of course, I would recommend that you ask like peer reviews. A peer can be even your mom, your dad, your friends, people you work with, to just read through your story, correct you if you've made any grammatical errors. Again, if the essay says 1,000 words, 999 words is good. 1,000 words is good, but you're stretching it. 1,001, Why are you not following instructions, bestie? You get yourself disqualified with small little things. So make sure that everything is tip-top, you follow instructions, and everything's compiled. Writing essays can take a lot of time. Maybe you're not very good with penning things down. You are much better at saying them out. Some actually say, okay, if you cannot do writing, you can record a video. Are you good with sitting in front of the camera, or you're better with, writing things down? So just all of these things to consider while you're, reviewing the website and what to expect and what's expected of you while you're applying. Be very mindful of deadlines. Again, you have given yourself a time frame that, okay, in 8 months, maybe you're very good at compiling all this information, or you've been, updating your resume throughout. That's fair and fine. You've given yourself a timeline, but so does the school. If they say that application process is from October 31st and we're closing it the following year, if you're going to be starting in fall is typically like August, September. If you want to come in fall, make sure that the previous year, again, it takes time. You've applied, you've submitted your application, and you also want to aim to be one of the first, because if it's like a first come first serve basis, even if your application is great but you submit yours on the last day of the deadline, for example, if they say 15 January, all these other people, even if they were not as great as you are, but the fact that they applied early on, they get a better chance. So make sure that you follow the dates of, the time frame that the program is being opened up for. Be sure that you've also made thorough search and you're sure that they need or don't need standardized tests. So this can be ACT, GREs, GMATs, whatever the case may be. Make sure that you also write those on time. By the time you submit your application, make sure that everything is in order. So that can be your standardized test results, your recommendations. Have you informed them that this is what you want to do? Are they up for being your recommendation? All of it. Essays written, have they been peer reviewed? Because yes, you're a great writer, but we make mistakes. It's always good to give your work to somebody else with a fresh set of eyes to make sure that everything's tip-top, Your transcripts is everything in order. Transcripts are huge. Some colleges actually prefer that you send them your transcripts before you even come, or they can say once you come, you can come to the graduate student's office and then they review on their own. But yeah, think about it. Like, do they want you to go through someone who does accreditation, or they want you to come in person? So these are all things to consider. I hope this video was very useful. Please take note of every single thing that I've said and put all of this in consideration. Of course, if this does not apply to you, I know for a fact some of it will. And I will do a follow-up video on like the visa application, because again, you're an international student, especially if you're going to be coming with dependents. This is my forte. I've got you. Welcome to the party and all the best.